Bienvenidos.
Welcome. This is Learning with Lobos.
I'm Paloma.
I'm Loni, and we are education consultants with Early Childhood Services Center.
And this is a UNM podcast for early childhood.
This is Season 1, Episode 2. Today we're talking about redirection. Paloma, before we go into our book of the month, let's introduce our guest. So we have Jessica here with us. She's a fellow education consultant, just like Paloma and I. And so, Jessica, tell us a little bit about yourself and about the book that you brought us today.
Yeah, thank you, Loni. I've been a teacher for 10 years before transitioning into this role. So I taught in Utah, I taught in Arizona, and then I taught here in Albuquerque. And something that I love about this book in particular is that it focuses on the positive language for children. So they're learning not just that kicking can hurt, but what other things that are positive that they can be doing with their feet.
Standing,
exactly,
leaping,
kicking,
landing.
Dancing.
I love that.
Dancing, yes, there you go.
Exactly. Puts the focus on something that they can do rather than just what they can't.
So, Jessica, how exactly does a book like this that we're talking about positive alternatives, how does that lend itself into the topic we're talking about today, which is redirection?
I think it goes into this topic because so often when we think of redirection, we think of what behaviors are okay for children and what behaviors aren't okay, but we focus on what's not okay. Mm-hmm. So this book can lend itself to giving children the ideas of what they can do to regulate their own feelings, because a lot of the time kids aren't behaving in the way that we think. They're not necessarily always kicking to hurt, but sometimes they just need to move. So by giving them the positive alternative of running or dancing, you're taking the power away from using it as a tool to hurt. It's just a way for them to regulate.
What a positive way to say that, right? Like reframing language, growth mindset even. Mm-hmm. You just change that to saying we need to redirect because children are doing things they shouldn't be doing, to saying it in such a powerful way that I think, other teachers and also families should really hear it that way, and I think it would help.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is redirecting is guiding. Right. So you're essentially guiding, and I like what you said, that it's powerful, because I feel like it has power if parents and teachers would understand the power that it has, that you can model the behavior, switch it later on. They'll have it in the back of their heads like, hey, now it comes auto-regulation, right? Yeah. Now this is maybe a bad decision. So now the power that had, that you redirected or guided the behavior, it's something amazing that eventually it'll start being less and less, and it'll help them out, give them the tools they need to continue to grow, right?
Yep, exactly. And one thing that I note is that a lot of the time with behaviors like this, or in the classroom or at home, is it's the kind of the narrative that we as adults are telling ourselves about what the child is doing, right? So if a child's hitting at home, then the narrative might be that they're hitting because they want to hurt someone, or they want to get attention, or all of these different adult perceptions. And even just using this to inside your own mind to redirect yourself of let's assume it's just a child being a child, and I don't need to control them, and it's not about getting them to behave in what I think is appropriate. And then it kind of takes away that power of it leading to frustration just in our own heads.
I love that, because it's telling us they are doing it because they have a physical need. That's the whole point of redirection and needing to learn self-regulation. Mm-hmm. Self-regulation is something that we have because we understand some of us, right? I don't know about Paloma, no. But kids, we're always asking for kids to have the same amount of regulation that we have. It's not attainable yet. Right. So if we change the narrative where they are needing to maybe kick or scream even, or run away, and all these things that we, like you said, have this perception that it's this negative thing, but instead think maybe it's actually just a physical need to move. It's a physical need to just do something, get your wiggles out, because I don't know how to feel different or feel better if I don't do that.
Right.
And that's interesting that we're always saying that to our teachers, and then when we have trainings, professional development, and they have to get up or they have to do something, nobody tells them not to. Nobody tells them don't until I tell you to.
Right.
So they should understand it's the exact same thing, like you said, Loni. is they just need that a little bit of extra help.
Yep.
Yeah. Jessica, did you do crisscross applesauce? Like, did you remember crisscross? I always remember that as a teacher.
Yeah.
And it's like so popular, but in the recent years of teaching, and then as I've transitioned into this role, I've tried to talk to teachers about, well, why did I learn crisscross applesauce in school? Why did I learn it as a new teacher? And I realized it's more about like us as teachers having control over the way that the kids are sitting. But I couldn't imagine like us right now, if you were telling me to sit a certain way the entire time we were having this podcast,
Right.
or I tell teachers in this meeting with me, you have to sit in this exact way the whole time.
Right.
I'm constantly switching my legs, moving around, fidgeting even. And I could not imagine as an adult doing that. And I have the ability to self-regulate.
Right.
Like I can't, a little 3-year-old, a 4-year-old can't sit exactly how we want him for what benefit, just so we can maybe control. So what do we do, Jessica, if we're telling teachers don't make them sit this way and they're worried about, what do we say, chaos? What's going to happen then? Everyone's going to start sitting this way and that way, and then behaviors are going to happen and circle time will get ruined. So what would you say to that teacher?
Well, I would say kind of even aligned with the book focusing on the positive of what do you want that to achieve? What does sitting crisscross achieve for you? And if the logic for that is that they want all the children to stay in their own space, then that's what I would encourage. Replace crisscross applesauce of, you know what, stay in your own space. You know, we would say in our class, one of our rules, you know, soft hands to ourselves, but that was the key, right? To ourselves. You can sit however you want as long as you're keeping your body to your own body. So I would say something like that to encourage that flexibility of however they're going to sit. They have that choice, but we still have the boundary of you can't lay on, you know, the kid next to you, or, you know, we're not going to lay down with our backs up. But you just kind of have to figure out what it is that you're trying to achieve and then focus on that positive with the kids. Give them the options of sitting like a mermaid, you know, sitting, however, you could have pictures up, they could choose, but you know,
I wanna
many
sit like a
fun
mermaid.
things. So
Yeah.
many fun things that you can do, and even in the moment, also modeling and maybe pointing to a different child. Let's see who's ready to go. I see somebody. Can someone tell me who? And then they can maybe themselves looking at, well, who's sitting really nicely over here?
Right.
And like right away, you redirected it and you're like made it fun. Oh, who's doing it? Oh, so and so's doing it. Oh yeah, you're ready. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And now, oh, they did that. Let me do this. It's kind of like you're just modeling the behavior. You're
Right.
changing it, like you said, from negative to positive. It sounds easy. It's not always, but it's are great tools that eventually, little by little, they'll start working better for teachers, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And kids are creative. So even as you say, like if they're sitting on the carpet and you're highlighting that they're keeping their bodies to themselves, they could be sitting whichever way. And they're going to now feel really, oh, yeah, this is the apple. I sat like an apple. And then, you know, maybe the kids are going to sit like an apple, but it's okay because they're keeping, you know, themselves safe and the people around them safe.
And I think there's a benefit to, you know, what you said in the beginning is you're actually having the teacher think, why? Why is this an expectation in your classroom? Why do you want them to do this?
Right.
And when you find out it's actually, like you said, well, I want them to stay within their own space. I want to have boundaries. And that's what they're afraid of, right? Is lack of boundaries. Yeah. And that's why I went to that word chaos. That's what we don't want. But if we find the real reason behind whatever that expectation of a teacher's is, then we can provide a real tool as consultants to say, hey, this is what you need and want. Well, here's another way to do it. And that brings me to choices.
Yeah.
Redirection is all about choices, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a big way for children to feel in control of themselves, of their learning, and to really feel safe learning in the space. Because we know that that's the key to them learning, is to feel comfortable and to feel like they're loved and cared for in the environment. So giving children the choices as much as you can. I mean, there are obviously certain things where they can't have a choice, but as much as possible for them to be able to have that control over themselves, whether that's, you know, okay, it's time to go to the bathroom before we go outside. Some kids, they don't want to go to the bathroom, and they're going to give you every reason why they don't want to. And so, I'll try to whip out like, okay, we can walk to the bathroom like giraffes or elephants. What would you rather? And, of course, there's always some kid that's still going to be, no, I don't want to. And then I think that that's where it comes into talking a little bit more with them privately. Maybe there's too many people, they're overstimulated. But I don't know. Sometimes I find that if I lean into it, like, oh, how would a giraffe walk? Oh, what would their neck look like? And just kind of talking to them about the fun, making those choices fun, but still allowing them that freedom to choose for themselves. Hey, I can't have, this child getting hurt in class. So, you can choose to sit with this teacher, or you can choose to go to the safe place. What's better for you? And just giving them that choice, because that's what we'd want for ourselves. If someone was upsetting you and they're like, okay, well, you have to go line up now. It's like, I don't want to do that right now.
What a great example. Is that what you would like? No, you have no options. You don't feel good. You might not even feel safe, but go ahead and do what I'm telling you to do.
Right.
Yes.
Right. It's about compliance at that point, right? Fear. And I think that when it's with children in the classroom, sometimes we forget that. Like, it just seems like that's the standard. But when you think about it in the context of adults and your colleagues or, your friends, you wouldn't talk like that to anyone else.
Oh, no.
So
be a guest on our podcast or else.
Right. Exactly. No choices there.
Well, and choices are important, again, with what is it that you're wanting. Bring it back to boundaries. You don't need to provide choices you don't want them to say yes to. Right. I mean, I would hope not. Right. Provide a choice that whichever one they choose, you're okay with.
Right.
And don't provide too many choices because you can overstimulate them. That's just too much. When you're feeling in this like possible fight or flight mode, or you're feeling uneasy or frustrated, big emotions, and you're like, well, here's 7 different choices. Like, whoa, overwhelming. Yeah. That kind of basically, you might as well have no choices again, right? So also the use of visuals. It adds to the chaos. So if you can only give 2 choices, add a visual if you have the opportunity to, depending on the situation, right? That could really help a child refocus. And so I think that's great. Everything that you're talking about, Jessica, is honestly such a cool topic, an important topic, and something like Paloma, you said that is also not that easy, right? Like, we're talking about it, but it's not that easy.
Right. No.
Especially when you're dealing with putting out a lot of fires at once, right?
Yes.
In the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and even within yourself, because we all have things that trigger us, if loud noises is something that I know that's a trigger for me, and the class is getting loud, I'm not in my best, state of mind to be working with the children. And that's a good point for me then to give myself that choice to step out or to take a walk and give the children the best state that I could be in.
Right. And I like a powerful interaction. Scan yourself.
Yeah.
Leave your static outside, which is, I always tell teachers, I know it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. You have financial problems, marital problems, whatever it is, kids, life, right? But if you leave that static out, then you're just able to do your job in a more productive way, and it's more positive for you as well. So that's really good.
And you're saying, right, teachers, we have this hard time going into work when we have life happening. Kids have life happening too.
That's true.
But we expect for them to get it together. Time for circle time.
Right.
Yes.
If we can't do it easily, how are they going to do it easily?
And circle time is one of the times that it's more difficult, or it seems to me teachers bring up that's the one moment where they want that control. They want that control, which sounds bad. We're not talking about, we know teachers, like we know how it is, but instead of wanting that control, there's an opportunity for many types of learning, many things that you can do, which right there is, okay, let's do some choices. Let's do that. But it's all about sit down right here, pay attention to me when I'm done. And circle time can be kind of challenging sometimes for teachers, right?
Right. Absolutely. And I think that, in the ideal, if every child had a teacher, then circle time would be easy because every kid has that person to help them.
One-on-one.
Exactly. And so, I think, retort back to old ways of that control type of discipline when we feel frazzled. Like we're not able to say as a teacher, I'm like speaking from a place as if I'm still actively, but
We're always teachers for
Once a
life.
teacher, always a teacher.
Yeah.
We're always teaching. We're always learning.
yeah,
Agreed.
absolutely. And I think once you get into that spot, then you want the kids to learn. And so, if everyone's quiet, then that's how it's going to be possible. But then you think even, if you're in a meeting or even with any like real rule or expectation, like I know for me, if I don't understand the rule, if it isn't something that clicks with me or no one's explained it to me, I'm going to have a hard time following that. Even if they're like, okay, you need to be quiet because I said so. But then like, where does that end? And what does that mean? And so I think it's also important to have that conversation with the class of like, why do you think we need to sit quietly, friends? What's the importance of that? And getting their feedback and making sure that they know that it's not because your voice isn't valuable or you aren't important, but, we want to make sure everyone can hear. And so involving the kids in that community so that they feel like they have a voice and that they understand and it's safe to ask these questions, I think it also builds that relationship, which makes redirection easier as well.
And that's amazing that a key right there, communication, right? Because if the why, we're doing this because we give an explanation, it's information. Everybody with information, you feel a little bit, okay, well, you want me to do that because then it changes things. So that bit of communication gives a lot of power to the teacher too, to be able to give them choices because this is what it is. These are consequences. We have certain expectations, information, right? Not just, no, like you said, because I said so.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that was my dad, my mom. Why can't I go out? Because I said so. Why can't I have dessert? Because I said so. It's the same thing with, memorization, right? Rote learning versus learning, hands-on. Kids, if they don't know why, what are they learning? Putting that why behind, putting that because in the conversation, it will give them more autonomy in the classroom. It will give them opportunities to physically learn what the reason behind things are and give them the chance to decide if they find that because, important enough for them to change their behavior. They might say, okay, you gave me a because, but I still don't care. And that's fine because they have the autonomy.
Yep.
But over time, they might start to realize through empathy and learning about others and boundaries, okay, that because is important now to me. But without it, it's almost like a lost cause.
Right. And I think it's one of those things in the classroom that is difficult. It's obviously we're talking and it can sound easy, but it takes time. And I think that's why sometimes there is discomfort in shifting to this way of thinking in the classroom because it takes a long, you've got the weeks and the days where you're putting in to give those positive interactions with the children, to build that relationship so that they feel safe. And that takes time, just like it does for us to feel safe enough in an environment. Whereas, retorting to just making demands, that fear kicks in right away. So you get immediate results. And so sometimes when you switch from one to the other, it can seem like, oh, it's not really working because they listened when my voice was raised and I did this. And so I liked in the classroom to really focus on the positive. So if there was a kid, that shared their swing, and they might not know right away that they liked that. Maybe they wish they had kept swinging on the swing. But if every time they do something, I'm there and I say, hey, I noticed you got off the swing and that child got on the swing. Look at that child's face. How do you think that child's feeling right now? How do you feel seeing that child's face? And really just trying to amplify the positive feelings that they have when they're doing behaviors that have positive consequences, positive results. So that way they start to notice it in themselves.
Right.
That's beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah. I have a teacher that was telling me that her son came home from school and he was talking how they don't have rules or expectations because I told her, why don't we change the word from rule to expectation? And she was telling me, so what he came with, I love and I'm using it now. I hope that's okay. I'm like, well, what is it? And she says, it's I'm making good choices, Mom. She says that he said, I know that what some of my choices are good, some are bad, but today I'm making good choices. And she says she loved that because these are good choices we can make. Let's make good choices today. And it also, she says that it's teaching him, hey, I didn't make such good choice today, but I'm going to try harder tomorrow. It's like, it's all about the positivity. And I love that, making good choices. As a human being.
What you said kind of made me feel like what you're saying is redirection can teach empathy.
Absolutely.
I was thinking the same, empathy. As you were speaking, I'm like, empathy.
And so you're kind of, teaching two different milestones, two different hard things to do as a kid is to have empathy and to know how to redirect and to have self-regulation and to do all these things, and you can kind of do it all together. Which
Absolutely.
I love. The way that you're speaking to it, it can be all together. It doesn't have to be separate, which I really like. Jessica, I'm seeing something fun over here.
Yes.
So you brought these for us. Tell me, I know these are fidgets. I'm so excited, but why did you bring us fidgets? Paloma, do you want one?
Yes. Let me get this one.
I'll
It's a
grab
little ball for those of you just listening.
Yes.
This one, what would you call this? Fussy, hairy,
stretchy, because it's like
plasticky ball?
elastic. Yeah. Any name is good.
And this is like a little marble inside of like a mesh tube.
Yeah.
You can push the marble back and forth. This is my favorite kind of fidget.
Yeah,
And
I
so
like
why are these here? I mean, I love it. Paloma and I are here for it. But
We
What's
are
the
in a
benefit?
toy library.
yes, we are.
Oh, well, I think it's important because we know, even for ourselves as adults, that it's important to have something to kind of ground us, to keep us busy, because I don't know, especially in this day and age, there's a lot that can distract us. And so something like this can help ground us as adults, but also offering it as an accommodation for children that maybe have a hard time sitting at the circle because they want to move their feet, or they want to, similar to how this book is, sometimes kids just want to move because their body wants to move, not because they're trying to be defiant. So having other options for them to regulate while also following the boundaries and expectations for whatever they're doing throughout the day, I mean, fidgets are an easy way to do that. So
I love that. And the thing is I find it important too, is to try and avoid words like toy, play. Like, let's play with the fidgets. No, let's use the fidgets, because it's not a regular toy. It's a tool.
right.
And
Interesting.
also avoiding certain types of fidgets. These are all really great options. But like, remember fidget spinners? Like, I remember those being like crazy popular a couple years ago.
For Christmas, there
Yeah.
was the toy to buy.
Yeah.
They were crazy, but they kind of turned into a toy. And I think it's important to separate fidgets from toys. Any of the types of fidgets that even are labeled fidgets, do they look like more of a toy? Do they light up? Do they make noise? Are they going to be perceived by students as a toy? Because then you run the problem of they're not going to be utilized the right way, right? And then their purpose is gone.
Right. Yeah, because they can be a distraction. And something to consider, I guess, when you're utilizing modifications is what are they supporting? So if you're wanting to keep them focused in large group time, then of course you're not going to want any fidgets. Even some of these that I brought might be too loud, and then it could distract another child. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I think it's important to have these conversations with the children in your class. You know, we all have things that are different, because I know that the conversation can sometimes go where kids are like, I want that one. And, even here, there's a variety. But if they didn't have a second
We
of
both
this one,
wanted
I
the same
might
one.
be upset. And I might be like, I want that one. It's not fair.
She might not use her feet for
I might be
Kicking under the table.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So it's, I think, important to acknowledge, I mean, it goes with that safety that you build in. If they know that this is not something that's a once a month or, only comes out sometimes, then there's that scarcity, that you're taking away that scarcity mindset that they can maybe have a turn the next time. But additionally, that everyone has different needs.
Yes.
Right.
I think sometimes kids will go, oh, well, that child gets it, and how come I don't? It's like, well, you know what? If there's a child with a long hair and they need to pull their hair back, they get an elastic. But if you have short hair, you're not going to get an elastic. That's not going to work the same for you. So
I love that description. It's like, do you need it? And I think at first you're going to get kids that want it, and they'll say, yeah, I need it. But eventually, if you are doing everything we're talking about, eventually they're going to say, oh, I don't need that. And I understand
Right.
why someone else needs it. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, depending on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, making it a tool makes it a little easier to be less jealous of it.
Right.
Because it is, like you said, it's a modification. Your peers are going to need this sometimes to help focus. Do you need this to help focus? And if they're able to start eventually realizing what their needs are physically,
Yeah.
then one day they're going to say, yes, I do need that, or no, I actually don't.
Right.
And or I'll let you know if that changes. And that's going to be really empowering for self-regulation tools.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that helps what you said of what you were talking about earlier, just about the domino effect. The teachers say that, well, if I do this, then everybody's going to. So wording it that way, like you said, Loni, it's a modification right there on your lesson plan. I modify by doing this. It's a tool. It's not everybody gets one.
Right.
It's who needs this, and it's not all the same. They're not all the same.
Yeah.
Well, the safe place is one child should be going in there. So it's essentially the same thing. You're going to have kids at some point or another say, well, I want to go in there, but do you need to be in there? Because it's not an area for more than one child. It's a space, hence the name, safe space or safe corner. A lot of people use different names. But it's essentially an area in the classroom that you go alone and or with the guide of a teacher if you want, and you get support and you start to regulate using different tools such as a fidget, books, things like that. And so that's another one that could, possibly cause a domino effect. But what do? You've got teachers saying, I don't want to do this because I don't want kids to fight over it, or I don't want to have any, behaviors come up, things like that. But this is so crucial. We need fidgets. We need safe spaces. We need redirection choices. What do you do?
Well, I think it goes back to that communication piece of setting the expectations that they're used. If at the very beginning of it, you kind of expect that maybe the whole group is going to want to fidget for that first lesson we have on fidgets.
Good idea.
So everyone can have it at that point, but we talk about it, what do you hear when you're playing with this? How do you feel? You talk about the senses, but then really introduce its use. And if it starts to become something that's used to play or to kind of exit out of our bubble to hurt another child, then it goes right back where it's safe. Because just like we are to be safe, so are these. These need to be kept safe because they're a part of our classroom just like we are. And so I think just having that conversation and then following through on the expectation of, okay, I'm going to give the warning. I think sometimes we'll just be like, oh, you're playing with it, snatch right out of hand. But imagine if that was us. Once again, like, you're not playing with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or more important to us, give me that burger.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, if there's a warning of like, hey, so-and-so, remember, we got to play with this, use this quietly at the circle. And after a few times, maybe even having a second teacher or quietly say, you know what, I noticed that toy was, this is what I saw. I saw you looking away. I saw you rolling out of the carpet. Let's try without it next time because we have to be keeping them safe.
You're saying it's a learning curve.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we tell teachers. Yeah, it's not going to be successful at first. It's a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Yep, exactly. And it's the same with the safe place because, I think it gets really exciting when I use a safe place in my classroom. I'd introduce it slowly. So we wouldn't have it, we would have the space set up so that kids, of course, in the beginning of the year could utilize it. That's when emotions are high.
Yeah.
But we would introduce the materials with it little by little, and then we would have lessons. We would maybe do a circle time where we'd all go to the safe place and what do you see and what do you do here and how do you feel here? And so that they know how to use the environment and acknowledging that right there that, when someone's here, that means they want to be left alone. So only one child can be here at a time. If there's already someone here and you feel like you need to use it, come find a teacher. We'll figure it out, whether that be let's go to the library, let's go for a walk, depending on what the need is, because sometimes you will have two children that both have a high need. Sometimes not. Sometimes one kid just wants it. But it's important that they know that they can go to their teacher instead of, retorting to maybe using their feet in a way that is harmful to get the safe place. So,
I think this is a good time for questions from the field.
Let's do it.
Yay. All right. Looks like we have 2 today. All right. We have one anonymous question from the field. We have been working on giving the children choices, but how do you respond when a child just says no when you give them choices? That's a great one.
It is a great one, and it's a tough one. And I think, I don't know, I just want to reiterate that this topic for me is something that I found to be so useful, but I'm definitely not speaking from a place of like, oh yeah, I'm the expert on this, but more so of like, this is so important, and it's important because I think it leads a lot to teacher burnout, and I don't know, I just think if we recognize that it's in our power to control, like we can only control ourselves, then it kind of helps in that regard. But as far as giving a choice to a child, and, you know, as fun as the choice may be, even in what I said, okay, we can walk to the bathroom like a giraffe or an elephant, or you can walk out to the playground with your friend or this friend. If they just say no, right, that tells me that maybe they're in more of their fight or flight. They're not in a place where they're ready to make a choice. And so to that, I might offer, okay, well, we can go to the safe place. Maybe I want to help them regulate, and that's where they're at right now. Or maybe that's when I say, you know what, right now we have to go outside. So you can choose, you know, and give them the choices again, or Miss Jessica can choose. And I'm going to choose to walk like a giraffe because I love giraffes, you know, and I'm going to try to still make it fun, of course, but I think still having that boundary of, you know what, we need to go outside, you know, it's important that there's a teacher that can, and trying to explain it, or if they're not in that space, going to the safe place and seeing what you can do to let them regulate before making a choice. And a lot of the time that will help. Just that.
I was going to say, I'm already I want to see you walk like a giraffe now.
Oh, I know. I'm like, how does a giraffe walk?
What is she going to...
Yeah, you know, you just stick your neck out really, walk on your tippy toes.
I love it. I love that. And I think it's realistic to say you're going to get some no's.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This isn't a picture-perfect scenario we're talking about in the podcast. We're having real conversations, and you're going to get some no's. And so I like the idea of saying, okay, I'm going to choose for you, because maybe it's not even that they're saying no because they want to defy us as teachers, but they just don't know what they want to do.
Right.
Even though it's just 2 choices, that still is too much for me.
Right.
Let's let you choose, or help me feel a little bit more grounded, and then maybe I can choose, and maybe not. Maybe I still need you to choose.
Right.
That's all realistic. So, all right, our next question from the field is from a teacher named Griselle. We have a child in our class that expresses himself through physical touch and struggles to understand boundaries from the other children. When he touched another child, the child pushed him away. He is going to need help solving problems without getting physical and respect the other. How can he help solve problems without getting physical and respect the other children's boundaries?
Good question.
Oh, yeah. This is a tough one because, you know, at a lot of times in the classroom, you have to kind of weigh different needs that different children have. Because, you know, when I hear that situation, you know, I want to honor that the child that was touched and they didn't want it, you know, they were setting their boundary. So I would also want to empower that child to learn that there are other ways that they can hold their boundary without pushing. So I would first want to empower that individual child to say, you know what, when someone does something you don't like, you can use your big voice. And big voice is something I get from conscious discipline, which
we love conscious discipline here.
Yes. It's I taught with it for a long time, and I think it's kind of just really woven into who I am, because conscious discipline is adult focused, and so I think
It's a way of life.
right.
It's a way of life. It's not a teaching
I like that.
philosophy.
Yeah, because it's all about learning how to regulate yourself, because that's the only way you're going to be able to help a child. So that's when I would say, you know, you can use your big voice and tell that child, I don't like it when you touch me, please stop. And even sometimes I would have circle times where we would practice that, you know, like, okay, even with me, sometimes the kids don't want to role play exactly, but, you know, you get up in there, I'm like, okay, imagine I'm in your space and you don't like it. What are you going to do? And we practice, hey, I don't like that. Please stop. I need space. And so you're teaching the children to be advocates for themselves of what they're okay with and what they're not. But then for the child that is getting, into other people's personal space, I would really focus on that empathy piece of, hey, when you touched them, did you see what their face did? I saw that when you touched him, he started to frown and he started to pull away. How do you think he was feeling? And really going, oh, have you ever felt like that? And that doesn't always work, especially because it takes time for them to build that understanding. But to just know, I know for me, I don't like getting pushed. You probably didn't like getting pushed, to that child. What can we do instead? Maybe you could say, hey, can I give you a hug? And let's try it. Let's go over there. And then doing it right away so that it's immediate. The child can then see right away that if they ask first and the child says, okay, I might even then say, look at that child's face. They're smiling. When you asked first and then gave them the hug, they feel so, look at them, they're feeling happy.
Right.
And so I think putting that emphasis back that they have the power and they don't need to hit. They don't like how it feels to be pushed or hit. So, if you're ever unsure and your brain, and this is what I would say, your brain might be telling you to do that because you're just feeling it so much. Come to a teacher, go to the safe place, and, we'll help you before that happens.
That's beautiful. And I really like that start for a beginning for children to advocate for themselves. Yeah. I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's this concept of like empathy keeps coming back. And I think about how children, maybe get physical more than others, and teachers or even families will say, well, this child's a bully. But they can't be a bully at 3 years old, at 2 years old, at 4 years old, because a bully, the definition of that is that those behaviors are intentional. These behaviors are because they don't know how to regulate.
Right.
That's what this is. This is
big difference.
Developmentally appropriate.
Right.
You're going to get 2-year-olds who are biting and scratching and hitting. I mean, my 1-year-old, he's starting to hit us when we're like, give us a kiss. And he's like, no. and I'm telling him, okay, not right now. That's okay. Because he's trying to tell me, hey, I don't have words yet. So get away from me. I don't want to give you a kiss.
You kiss when
Boundaries.
we tell you.
Yes.
You're right.
And I, as the adult, could say, no, you better give me a kiss, versus me saying, no, it's okay. Not right now. That's okay. And so it's completely understandable for kids to try and find an outlet when they don't know what to say. That's why it's important to say, not just use your words. What words?
Right.
Be kind. That's not nice. Well, what is nice?
Right.
Don't treat friends like that. Well, are those my friends? I don't even know what friend means yet. These are all concepts to, again, reframing language and giving them as much information as you can. No gray area. Say this. Is this how you're feeling?
Right.
This is what you did. We don't do that in the classroom. Giving them basically as much information, direct information as you can, and then eventually they'll learn other tools. I keep using that word today. Tools. That's the word of the day. Yeah. The tools to prevent them from being physical because they now know another way. But we can't continue to expect kids to not be physical if we don't give them those tools, and or to think that the physicalness is, again, because they're a bully or they want to physically hurt. They don't want to. Right. They just don't know another way.
Exactly. And I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because that is something that I've tried to be really intentional about in my own language of, like, they made me. Sometimes it can be positive, like, oh, when they did that, they made me happy. No, they didn't. I'm happy because they did that. Yes.
Oh, interesting.
I love that.
But it's an interesting thing that I think that we often do. Oh, you made me upset. You made me angry. No. When you did that, I felt this. And they're separate, but they're also connected. But it's taking that ownership back of
accountability to
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Especially with that self-advocacy, right? If they're standing up for themselves, they're also standing up for their feelings that are their feelings. No matter what anyone does, our feelings are our own. And so to be able to acknowledge, hey, when you did that, I felt this way. My body feels like this. And, explaining it that way, but taking that word made out of it, and it's hard. I think even if you do that, I've been noticing in my own, just even talking with other adults, like, oh, you made me so happy. And I'm like, no, You did it. I am happy.
Redirecting your
You
language.
didn't make me happy. I made myself happy. You're just a bystander.
Then that's awesome, and it reminds me of my sister-in-law. One of her favorite phrases is, "You're responsible for your happiness, and nobody else's." And it's the same thing. Your responsibility for your feelings, but again, you made me feel this way. I love it. That's really, really cool.
You're responsible for happiness and all the others. You're responsible for, imagine telling a kid that you're responsible for feeling mad, but I can help you. You're not alone. I got you. You're responsible for feeling sad, but you're not alone. I got you.
Yeah.
I'm here to help you. It doesn't mean they're alone in it,
Right.
but it means that it is up to them to figure out how to learn about their needs and wants and their body and their emotions, but they get to start off with such amazing help.
Right. Exactly. Right from the beginning, they're given the words of how to say it. And I think that's why the big voice and things like that are important, because, kids are they're new to planet Earth, and they are learning just right along with us. I mean, I even think of like the, use your words, that I think even, there are times as an adult where I might be feeling multiple things at the same time and I'm overwhelmed, and I might see a safe person and I'm going to just start crying, maybe because it's so strong. And if that safe person said to me, use your words, I can't help you unless you tell me, I'd be like, you are no longer a safe person. I am not coming to you anymore.
That's true.
What a great example. Yeah.
That's true.
You think, or it's okay. You'll be fine.
That one.
I am not fine.
okay.
I always tell my baby, I'm always like, your body is safe. And my dad laughs at me. Like, why are you telling him your body is safe? I'm like, well, because he's not okay, obviously.
Right.
He's crying or he's frustrated or he's mad. He's not okay.
Right.
I need to validate that. But I want to make sure he knows you're still safe.
Right.
You're still in a safe situation. Nothing is going to harm you in that way. I'm here. Mommy's here.
Yeah.
But it's okay that you're mad or you're frustrated or sad or whatever it is you're feeling.
Right.
And that's powerful. Our words are powerful.
Absolutely.
And obviously, I mean, I don't know. I love this conversation because it went from redirection to empathy, back and forth, to reframing language and positivity and just understanding ourselves as, our emotions as adults and kids. This was, honestly, I think you taught us how to regulate as adults. Thanks, Jessica. Honestly, I think this was amazing. And
I always tell my teachers to use this with other people, friends, family, your significant other, because we're talking about people.
Yeah.
So.
we are. I think, and as you said, conscious discipline is a way of life for adults too. Redirection is still needed as adults. That's why we joked about in the beginning. It's still something that we have to strive to this day. I've been using this fidget this whole time. It's been great. It's been helpful.
Yeah.
I was so glad that you were able to be a guest today. Honestly, it's been such a fun conversation and great book too. Feet Are Not for Kicking. Definitely a good one for teachers listening that don't have that. Paloma, do you have some, awesome trainings and events coming up that you can shout out for everyone?
Yeah, definitely. We want to give a highlight to an event that we're going to be doing outreach at. It's the Norte Foundation Back to School event in July 27. It's going to be in Española, for those of you in Española, and it's going to be from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m.
And that event is going to have free books, right?
Yes, they're going to be giving
free
away
books, everyone, if you want some.
Yes, always talking about free books.
Awesome. And of course, we have our summer calendar for training from the, office. And so definitely reach out to your consultant if you have one, or, look it on our website. And we always have trainings, coming in and out for the summer, fall, and spring. So just being aware of those. We've got some really good ones coming up.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, yeah,
And always remember to visit your local toy lending and resource library.
Yes,
If
we
you
film
wanna-
in the Albuquerque location.
That's where we're located. And I believe that those are our announcements for now.
Yeah. Don't forget to send in your questions. If you want questions from the field to be
Yes,
possibly
please.
answered like we were doing today, then email us and follow us on social media. This is Learning with Lobos.
Yes, we want to thank Jessica. Thank you so much for being here. And
Adios.
tripped up.
You know what's good?
Right?
This
Jessica
more
Tripp.
something-